Look at the three of us. Oh my goodness. Hello, hello. Happy
Hi.
spring to you, Reuben and Meredith.
Thank you, Joseph Bennett. How are you, my friend?
I am heavy of heart. Um, I just, I have had many, many beloved animals in my life, and I had a favorite, and his name was Chester Blue, and he left us yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh no, so sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
terrible.
it's a great, great dog, little shelter dog.
Sweet,
So
sweet dog.
that's
It's
how I
hard.
am. Tell me about you, Meredith Grandi.
Uh, well, I'm good. I don't have I mean, I'm good. My sweet fur babies have passed on as well, and I not recently, several months back, but I'm good. We just had a long weekend and now I'm back full
Mm.
force. How about you, Ruben?
Well, my dog is currently with my mother-in-law, who they're doing something in the front yard, and I have a feeling that as soon as we get into the deep, like really important part of this conversation, she's gonna like start banging at the door and want to come
Mm.
into the office. But hopefully she'll let us be for another 20 minutes or so.
We will just run with that. We're
We
totally fine
will.
with any interruptions for
We
sure.
will we will embrace it with love.
Yeah. So, can we let our listeners and viewers know who our lovely guest is,
I
Meredith?
think we should. Are you doing this or am I doing
I,
it?
I'll
'Cause
totally do it. I've been
you got
practicing
this.
since like last Thursday.
I want to know who our lovely guest is. Where's
Reuben
the lovely
Swartz
guest?
is the founder of Mimiran, the fun CRM, which stands for Customer Relations Management for independent consultants who love serving clients but hate selling. He's also the host and chief nerd on the Sales for Nerds podcast. He went from a background in computer science and software engineering from sales and marketing consultants to the Fortune 500 while struggling with sales and marketing for his own firm. His mission is to help other independent consultants make a bigger dent in the universe by using their talents to teach instead of market, connect instead of network, and help instead of sell. I'm going to repeat that last sentence because I love it. Using their talents to teach instead of market, connect instead of network, and help instead of sell. Welcome, welcome to Are You Waiting for Permission podcast. Reuben, thank you for being here.
It's great to be here, Joseph. Thanks for having me. And I'm still waiting for our lovely guest. But in the meantime, I'm happy to hang out and have this conversation.
Well, what I'm excited about is I actually use your CRM. And
Mm.
Ruben, what I loved about the way that you pitched it the first time I ever heard you talk about it in a connecting room, was how it was the anti CRM.
Mm.
And when you said that, I went, I'm using that because I have used several in the past and they're very overwhelming. And I am one of those people that I don't need to have all of my social media pinging me. I
Mm.
don't need elaborate like mazes of information to have to get through in order to find a person. And so I really love your tool, but what I love the most is exactly what you say, which is the connecting part, the education piece of it. And as someone, we get to connect with each other once every 2 or 3 months, but I see you like, on the social media, and sometimes we get to see each other in those networking connecting rooms. But what I have always appreciated about you is that you do genuinely, with big heart, want people to succeed in their businesses, and you're always
Mm.
doing extra things to help them get there. So tell me a little bit about your why behind that.
Well, as Joseph alluded to, I went through this very strange journey where I went from this very technical person to doing sales and marketing consulting. And I like to think I was doing a good job because we would get called back, we would get referrals, and so on. And we were helping these very big, very successful companies do sales and marketing better. And then when it came to my own sales and marketing, it was just awful. It was a struggle. And I thought, well, okay, I'm getting paid to sit in the room with some of the best sales and marketing people on the planet. Let me just take good notes and copy what they're doing. How hard can it be, right? And the better I did at that, the worse things got. And it's very obvious to me now, but it wasn't obvious at the time. I thought I was being clever. As usual, when I think I'm being clever, I'm really not being very clever. But what works when you have thousands of sales reps, you have billions of dollars to spend on marketing, where you have to, when you're a leader in those organizations, everything does become a number because you don't have relationships with your salespeople, let alone your salespeople's prospects.
Mhm.
It's very different when it's your business and you really do have personal relationships with all these people and you don't want to treat them like numbers and you feel icky about that and you just want to help people. And I thought, what if there was a way that we could actually do this properly? And of course, I didn't have a light bulb go off and say, aha, I should create an anti-CRM for this tribe of people. That would have actually been clever, but I didn't do that. Instead, I started building things to plug into these enterprise tools that I was using because they mostly the problem is they're too complicated, but they also didn't do certain things that we needed. And I started telling some people about this, and then people said, oh, that sounds really cool. I would like that. Can I have access to that? So I took this little tool set that I made for myself and I made it an app. And then people started saying, hey, this is great. I really love your stuff. It's simple. It's easy. I get it. I hate my CRM. Can you just make Mimiran do the CRM stuff so I can get rid of my CRM? And of course, I said, no, that would be nuts. The world doesn't need another CRM. And if it did for some reason, I'd be the last person who should build it. I hate CRMs. I mean, I've tried dozens of them. And I was always think, okay, this one's going to be better. And then I would like a few months later be like, gosh, am I just stupid? Like, what is wrong with me? Why don't these things like, why do I always feel like I'm fighting the thing that's supposed to be helping me? And again, sometimes when you're in the weeds, you can't see what's really going on. Looking back, it's obvious. All these tools are built for a VP of sales to keep track of a sales team. And that's a perfectly reasonable thing for the VP of sales to want to do. But we don't have a VP of sales. We don't have a sales team. We just have us.
Right.
And we have our quote unquote spare time to do our sales and marketing. And we don't really want to do sales and marketing. We kind of feel icky about it. So, how do we take that passion we have for serving our clients and focus it and organize it in such a way that we can, going back to what you said in your wonderful intro, Joseph, we can teach people because most of us are on a mission because we care about this little thing that we're doing, right? Like Meredith obviously needs to make money helping people speak better, but she really cares that people speak better.
Mhm.
And we all have that driving motivator for us. But a lot of times it gets disconnected from our business development. And then we're cut off from really our greatest source of strength, which is that passion we have for helping people. So instead, let's take that and use it and focus it in a way that's going to be productive, doesn't have to feel icky, can be totally helpful, and can actually, shockingly, be pleasant and fun and enjoyable, something we can look forward to doing. And therefore, we're going to actually do it and get better at it.
I love it. I love it.
I have a question for you. So, listener, what you might not know is that Meredith and I actually do a little bit of planning ahead of time. I know it seems like we never do anything and it was just flying by the seat of our pants, but we do. We ask some questions of our guests ahead of time. And one of the questions was about permission, obviously, because that's the theme of our show. You may know that already. And Reuben answered that he was waiting for permission to be himself on his website. And I thought, wow, how many of us are struggling with that? Like we want to, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want you to tell us about how you wait for permission to be yourself on your website, Reuben.
Well, I think like a lot of us, when I got started, I didn't know what I was doing. I was insecure about what was going on. And so naturally, you turn to these examples of big successful businesses and you say, well, gosh, so and so's got a website that looks like this. Mine should look like that, but with a different logo and different color scheme. And, I sort of joke that just because it might work for IBM doesn't mean it's the right thing for you.
Mhm.
And the people who wanted to hire us, because we were small and nimble and sort of like the special forces of consulting, would get confused if they went to our website and was like, wait, you look boring and bland like the other folks. And the people who needed to hire like the full-on army, they weren't fooled,
Mhm.
right? It wasn't getting us anything. Now, I'm not saying that you should put like, here's a video of us being total jackasses on a Friday night. Like that may not be appropriate for your business, but let people know that it's you. And I think that the number one thing people screw up when it's just their business is they have about us. We are this. They make it a plural instead of a singular person. And it's like, no, if the business is you, let people know they get you. That's a huge advantage for the people who actually want to hire you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's off-putting because people can tell there's some insincerity going on for people who actually want to hire you. And the people who need the big team, they're going to go elsewhere anyway. So little things like that, give yourself permission to be yourself. If you're funny, if you're hilarious, if you always wear purple, make sure your website is showing that. If you are not, right? If you're boring and staid and buttoned down and by the numbers, don't pretend that you're super funny. That's fine too, right? You want to attract the people that you're going to have a good time working with, because the worst case scenario is not that you don't attract somebody, it's that you land the wrong client, and that sucks the life out of you, not just for that project, but across all of your other projects and even outside of your business, right? You just end up with like, oh man, I'm drained of energy because I had to spend all day with someone that I really didn't want to spend the day with.
Well, I think you bring up a really important point too, because a lot of individuals I know left corporate and became entrepreneurs, started their own businesses. And so I feel that people have been so used to being compartmentalized. Like, this is the face and this is the way I act when I uh, go to the office, and this is the person that I am when I go home. And that's also for those of us who haven't really worked in corporate, we see that too. It's kind of modeled to us as well. So even those of us who start businesses that haven't been in corporate, we're like, well, if I want to attract the corporate people, then I need to look buttoned up in this and that and the next thing. And I agree with you 100%, Reuben. It's a little bit of a learning curve, and you have to get uncomfortably uncomfortable in it. But the more you can just blend all of the things that make you uniquely and distinctly you, the more you will attract those people that are meant to work with you. 100%.
Yeah, and I think not only will that work, but it's exhausting trying to be somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're a professional actress, you can kind of get away with it probably a little bit more than most of us, but it's tiring and it saps your energy, and people can tell if you're not a professional actress, they can tell something's not right. So even if you're just doing it because you're nervous, you're insecure or whatever, you're not actually trying to deceive somebody. It comes across to the people you're interacting with as this person's hiding something. Right. And when you're in a relationship, trust-based business, that's a huge problem.
True. It's very true. Yeah. No, I said Lady Gaga because she's someone who has a persona, right? Like, she can get away with it. She 100% went into it, but we're not all Lady Gaga.
Well, when you have, go ahead, Joseph. Sorry.
No, you're much more brilliant than I. You always get to go first.
I'm waiting for the lovely, brilliant guest to come. But in the meantime, right, when you're hiring Lady Gaga, you're hiring that persona.
Yes.
Right. That's the whole point.
Yes.
And you can have a consulting persona if you want. Some people do. But it's got to be like, I'm guessing that Lady Gaga's persona is something that she can inhabit quite naturally for extended periods of time.
Yes. She's committed 100%. That's the piece, right?
What keeps coming up for me listening to this conversation is the element of play. So what you might not know, Reuben, is that Meredith and I are both improvisers. So we play a lot in our lives. And I'm curious, when somebody is looking for expanding their business or for more sales or more connections or more networking, whatever it is, how do you feel about us playing with different website copy or with different roles or different presentations? And, I'm trying to have less seriousness in business and more playfulness in business. And that's not appropriate for all of us. But I think for some of us, if we give ourselves that permission to be playful, it can open up a whole bunch of doors and a whole bunch of conversations that aren't necessarily happening in the boardroom right now.
I think that's so important. And you can use a lot of different words for it. I think play is one of them that is valid, but also just experimentation. And one of my favorite words is just conversation. I think so often when we get into business, we don't have conversations, we have presentations, right? Where we're not really exchanging ideas. We're just trying to like hammer someone over the head with a slide deck or avoid getting hammered over the head with a slide deck. And so much happens in conversation. And as an introverted techie who doesn't really like selling, I had a lot of ability to try to use technology to get out of
Mm.
conversations, which is exactly the wrong way to go about it, right? You think you're going faster by using technology to automate a bunch of things, but really kind of coming back to what you're saying about play, you can achieve so much in actual dialogue and actual conversation that's going to be so much faster than being all serious about it, right? You can go and prepare a presentation for a month and it can be completely wrong. But if you had spent 5 minutes actually talking to some of your favorite customers about it, they would have showed you what they really cared about. I was having a conversation with a customer this morning who had, here's a bunch of things I like, here's a bunch of things I wish were different. By the way, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? I have tons of notes. Wouldn't have happened if I was like, here's
Mm.
the hour-long presentation on the new feature list.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you spend your day? What does a typical day for Reuben Schwartz look like?
If only it was a little bit more predictable and structured, that would be very nice. But I've got my dog, I've got my kids, I've got all kinds of stuff. Like before I even get to the business, like things are flying at me from all different directions. But one of the big things that I try to do, and it kind of relates back to what you just said, is I'm in a relationship business. And if you're in a relationship business, you're in a conversation business.
Hmm.
And if you're going to be in a conversation business, do you have time on your calendar blocked off to have those conversations? Or is it something that you say, gosh, I really need to talk to my customers, my prospects, my partners, whatever, but oops, I got busy and it didn't happen again this week? So I have slots blocked off in my calendar to have those conversations. And of course, the CRM makes it easy to do that and then makes it easy to kind of flip through people and actually have the conversations. And then what I like about that is when I wasn't very structured about this, what would happen is I'd be like, okay, I gotta talk to Meredith. She's like my one hot referral. I have to close Meredith or I'm in big trouble. So I would remember to call Meredith, but man, there was so much pressure on that conversation. Even if I was trying to be objective and diagnostic, even subconsciously, there's this notion of I've got to freaking close this deal versus I'm more like a doctor. I have this waiting room full of patients. Let's bring them in. Let's have a fun conversation about the part of doctoring that I really care about, that all these people want to know about. And there's no pressure on any individual conversation. And it brings us back to what you were talking about earlier, Joseph, that element of playfulness, right?
Mm.
Where, I mean, play may or may not be the right word, but there's a lightness to it. There's a joy. There's a back and forth because we're talking about something that we enjoy and we're not trying to make somebody do something because
Mm.
it's in our interest. We're trying to
Mhm.
help people get where they want to go, which could be doing business with us, could be take two of these and call me in the morning, could be go see this other person down the hall.
Mm. And Meredith, I wonder if that's why the three of us have podcasts, right? Because we're just having conversations,
Yeah.
right? We're not trying to influence anybody in any way, shape, or form. We're just opening up conversations with really interesting, lovely people.
Yeah, it's true. Until now. I mean, we have a lot to ask of Ruben at the end of this podcast.
Well, ask now because we have to wrap up soon.
Well,
Did you know
so
that?
Ruben, tell me one thing that you're really looking forward to. One thing
Mm.
that you're really looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to so many things, but I'm really excited. By the time this comes out, hopefully I will have already seen the full eclipse that's supposed to pass right
Mm.
over us.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we've all got our eyes on the weather forecast and fingers crossed.
Fingers
Okay.
crossed, because I will say I was in Wyoming for the last one and it was incredible.
Same question to you, Meredith. What are you looking forward to?
One thing that I'm looking for, I get to go to Kuala Lumpur in 2 weeks, and I'm very excited to visit Malaysia.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
excited. I get to go for work. I'm very happy. All right.
Mm.
If you, my friend.
I'm taking two.
Okay.
Tonight we have an improv show because it's our 13-year anniversary of an improv troupe that I founded 13 years ago today. And then I get to get on a plane and take Eli's Out of the Blue show to Boulder, Colorado. Meredith was the director of that show, and
Mhm.
we're taking it to Boulder for a presentation, three of them,
Yes.
and connect
Awesome.
with people.
My theatrical home.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Mm-hmm.
Small world. It's a small world, I tell you.
Small,
Small.
small.
Okay, so before we say goodbye, Reuben, one action step you want the audience to take, our listeners to take.
I think the big thing, and I thought of it the second I saw the title of your podcast, is so many people are waiting on permission to have an actual conversation with another human being that they already know. You don't have to wait for permission. Just pick up the phone and have the conversation with them,
Mm.
or at least leave a voicemail and say, "Hey, I know you're busy. Can't wait to talk to you. It's been too long."
You never know. I think Joseph might be calling me right now.
Yeah, I'm calling Reuben right now.
We're calling
Yeah.
Reuben right now. Well, I love that. Reuben, give yourself permission to call that person, even if you feel like it's a little bit on the scary side, because the worst thing that's going to happen is one of two things. They're going to say no, or they're not going to respond. But the best thing that could happen is they're going to say yes, and it's going to take you into a delightful place that you never thought you could go. So thank you, Reuben. It's always a joy to see you and to have these conversations. I appreciate you.
Thank you, listeners and viewers. We appreciate you as well. And we will see you next month.
Bye.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for having me.